we're gonna see how it goes. Let me connect real quick. Good morning for anybody just tuning in. Give me just 20 seconds to kind of get this in gear. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. All right. So now I see that I'm live. We're good to go. Yeah, okay, let me do this all the professional way. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I think, yeah, my name is, okay, here we go. I'm starting to see more things happening right now. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. My name is Jolene. I'm a certified songbird feeding specialist with Wild Birds Unlimited of Concord. And today we will be discussing northern cardinals, which are a whole lot of fun. I hope you guys are ready because nesting season is like practically here. Nesting is basically from March to August. Different songbird species nest at different times during these months. So you might have some that nest in the beginning, some that nest near the end, and some that nest throughout the entire thing. So you're probably going to hear a lot more singing from a lot of the birds. It's going to be a lot louder in the mornings, and you're definitely going to see a lot of fledglings hopping around soon enough. Good morning, you guys. Thanks so much for saying so. I'm glad you could tune in this morning as well. So for those that don't know, the northern cardinal is, of course, the very pretty red bird that we have that's very iconic for this area. It's like the state bird of like 7 states, I think, so it's very popular. It's usually the gateway bird that gets a lot of people into songbird feeding, but once they kind of get into it, usually they not necessarily forget about the cardinal, but they start their focus on like the bluebirds or the goldfinches or some that might be a little bit more eye-catching. So I thought it'd be fun to pay our respects to the northern cardinal today and talk a little bit about them as well too. If you guys have any questions during the presentation, I've got the comments up so I can see what's going on. Feel free to drop a comment and I will answer as we go along as well too. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just get into it as well. So first off, cardinals are in that order again, Passeriformes, which is all of our perching songbirds, but more specifically, they're in the family Cardinalidae, which is so easy to remember because we're talking about cardinals today. This also includes, oh, let's see, can't hear anything. Is the volume on at max? Let me see. I think, hold on, give me one sec. My volume is up. Can everybody else hear me okay as we're kind of continuing forward? If anybody could text that real quick, that'd be fantastic. It might be something on your end, Madeline, if nobody else is hearing anything. Give me one sec. Okay. I will try and speak a little louder just in case, but Madeline, you might want to double check your computer and see if the volume is on. All right, cool. Sorry about the delay there. Just wanted to make sure everybody can. All right, cool. Thank you guys so much for responding. I think subtitles are also on too, so those are usually pretty straightforward as well. Thank you guys so much. So hopefully the volume works out for you there as well. But continuing on, the family Cardinalidae also includes grosbeaks and buntings, and quite a few others. And if you're looking for a fun trivia topic to brag about with your friends, the scientific name for a northern cardinal is Cardinalis cardinalis. So once again, very easy and pretty straightforward, which is a lot of fun. Now, the reason the northern cardinal has its name like that, the northern cardinal, is due to 2 things. First off, the northern cardinal is the northernmost species of cardinal, pretty straightforward, and cardinals themselves got that name because their colors are very similar to the cardinals of the Catholic Church. So that would be kind of how that works as well. Sometimes you just put the things together that works. Oh goodness, good luck, Madeline. I hope you figure it out. Sorry, I'm not very good at IT. These birds really enjoy dense and shrubby habitat, and they have a slowly expanding range. So a lot of the time it used to be kind of like the eastern side of the US as well as some of Mexico, but as time has moved forward, temperatures are changing, and with a lot of deforestation in suburban areas, the northern cardinal's range is increasing. They were also recently introduced to Hawaii as well, so that's why the map looks so large. So you never know where you'll be able to see a cardinal soon enough. I think it's always funny when I go out west and everybody always talks about how fun the cardinals are, and it's always exciting to see them as well. Now, let's see. These guys usually have a 3 to 4 year lifespan, and the oldest that they found was about 15 years old. Again, they usually determine this by banding. Experience is not the right word, but basically when they capture birds, they band them and release them, and eventually they recapture them in the same area or a different location. Depending on how long it's been, they're able to keep track of ages like that as well too. So that's always a very interesting procedure to do it too. So when it comes to identification, of course, we know that these birds are very common redbirds here, but we do have other redbirds in the area, and you can't always rely on the color. Sometimes the lighting isn't good. You don't always see quite well. It could be very far away. So knowing the shape of these birds is very important as well, too. So so the major characteristics to focus on with these birds include the crest, which is usually pretty prominent. Sometimes it's like laid down, so you'll see that that kind of goes up and down depending on what the cardinal is doing. They do have a very thick beak as well. It's pretty short and stout compared to if you think of like a blue jay that has a much longer and kind of almost thinner beak. And then they also have very long tails. If you take this into consideration of like a goldfinch, their tail is usually pretty short or kind of close to the wings. Cardinals have a much longer tail. So knowing this shape and these major characteristics can help you identify a cardinal from farther away. Not only that, but not all the cardinals are red. Your males and females are different colors, which is due to sexual dimorphism. That is when your male and female have different characteristics and they're of the same species. So the males are the ones that we see that are bright red. They have that very sharp black beard kind of in the front right there as well too. And that's who usually we see a lot of pictures and everything for already, but the female cardinal is a little bit different. She's more of a brown coloration, but she does still have the red on the wings, the crest, and the tail too. So even though she's not completely bright red, she's still a cardinal. Plus, she still has that crest, that type of beak, and that longer tail. Your adult cardinals also have that bright orange beak, so keep that in mind when you're looking for these guys. Not a lot of birds we have here have that bright orange beak year round, so that's always a lot of fun as well too. And then when you're listening, because you can also identify a lot by a bird just by their song as well. Songs are usually only done throughout nesting season, so that's why it's a little bit louder this time of year. Their song basically goes, what cheer, 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 and purdy, purdy, purdy. All right, so I have, because let's see, I have a song file here. Hopefully this is loud enough as well. So it's a little bit different depending on the individual, but that will be what your cardinal song sounds like. I personally think it sounds a little bit like a car alarm. So I think it's a lot of fun to compare it that way, but it is very iconic and distinct compared to other songbird species as well. Their call, which they do throughout the year, is more of a chip, and a lot of birds sound like that. So it can be pretty hard to identify that in comparison to other bird species as well. So one thing I want to talk about as well, just to let you guys know, the cardinal, the northern cardinal anyways, is not the only bird in the United States or on the mainland of North America that is also in the same family. The Pyrrhuloxia is a very fun name and fun bird that is found out in Texas and some of the surrounding states as well as Mexico too. So it's got a smaller range. We're not going to find it out in like the eastern part of the US unless something is real crazy. But if you're ever traveling out that way, you can get a look at this bird too. Keep in mind they both have the same type of crest, the longer tail, and while they have different color beaks, it's still that kind of stout, thick beak that is associated with cardinals quite often. If they are in the same range, sometimes these birds do hybridize and do make a fun mashup of the two, but we're not really going to see any of that in our location. This is just a heads up. If you travel, keep an eye out for this bird because I think they are a lot of fun as well. So again, one thing that's really fun and eye-catching about these birds is the bright red color that they have. So how do they get it? Like not all birds are red and are as striking, right? So this is actually not something that the cardinal can like make on its own. This color actually comes from outside sources. So actually, the red pigmentation is called a carotenoid pigment. This is a pigment that allows for red, yellow, and orange coloration, right? So this isn't actually produced on its own in the cardinal. This is obtained from eating various fruits and insects found in the cardinal's diet. So when they are about to molt, they eat a ton of these fruits and insects that have this carotenoid pigmentation, which allows it to deposit in their feathers in the next molt as well. So a lot of the time during that fall molting period is when they gorge themselves on these kinds of food. And that provides that bright color that we're all used to. Now, sometimes this doesn't always work out the way that they'd like. There are cases of atypical coloration or differences that don't usually look like our cardinals that we're used to. Two of these include leucism or leucistic birds, which basically have very little to no pigmentation in certain locations, but not like albinos or albinism, right? So albinism is when there is no pigmentation whatsoever. The eyes are like that light red, pale color. But leucism is when maybe like a few feathers have that kind of coloration, but you still have a lot of the red in there as well too. This other one, which is really fun, I learned this word specifically for this presentation, is xanthochroism, right? So this is when the red doesn't turn out red, okay? It changes to yellow, whether it's because of the diet that they're eating or a genetic issue that it's not producing that red, you'll get yellow cardinals, right? So that's why you hear some cases of like these yellow birds always around, or not always around, but every few here and there. Like there's one in Florida, and there's been articles for a few different places as well on these yellow cardinals. So that is how they get their color. It's something doesn't work right. It's a little bit different. So that's always interesting as well. So the brighter a cardinal is, the better its diet is as well. So for those that don't know, molting is a period where birds lose all of their feathers over one period of time. So we lose hair and skin cells like all the time. Cardinals and other birds kind of drop all of their feathers in like one go through a few weeks or so. So cardinals themselves are only going to molt about once a year, but other birds molt twice a year. Goldfinches are molting right now to get their summer plumage in. But basically, you're going to have some birds that look real ugly for a hot second until they get all of those feathers back in place. So this is the time when those pigments deposit in the feathers, so the new ones look really good as well. So you sometimes in the fall might see these ugly bald cardinals that are absolutely doing their best, but they are a lot of fun. So just to let you know there. So obviously we know they're focusing on those food options with the carotenoid pigmentation in the fall, right? But throughout the rest of the year for their diet, they're going to be going for a lot of seeds and a lot of fruit. That's going to be their primary focus throughout the year. They do have those large, thick bills that are made to crush heavy seeds. So they are good with like safflower and a bunch of other thicker shelled seeds too. These birds are primarily ground feeders. You're usually going to see them kind of under the shrubs or on the lower level branches. They're not going to be going anywhere like a chickadee does, where it kind of gleans on the underside of leaves. These guys are going to stay pretty close to the ground or on thicker, sturdier branches. In the summertime, that's going to be when they focus and shift to insects, as well as in the fall, because that's going to be helpful on protein as well, which is always good for any young that they have at that time too. So that's going to be kind of what their focus is on there. Someone said that molting bird picture is how I feel in the morning. Absolutely. These birds look like they woke up with some serious bedheads. So that is like one of my favorite times of year, to be honest with you. When it comes to courtship, this is actually a lot of fun. And we're going to be seeing a lot of this right now because, again, we're in that period of nesting and courtship season and stuff like that as well. For the cardinals courtship, these guys do a lot of courtship feeding, which is really cute. The male will feed the female a food item or anything like that. They do have displays where they show off that crest and their wing feathers, probably show either coloration or just the condition of those feathers as well. And then actually, for a lot of other songbird species, usually it's only the males that sing and the females will just call, but they'll usually listen to the males and see what they do. Both the male and female cardinals sing, and they sing a duet, which is really cool. Give me one sec. Here we go. Let me see, this one's a smaller one. So they actually, that's not the cardinals. There you go. They will overlap their songs. Here, let me play that again. So they both kind of work together to show that they are courting, and they do that duet. And it's really cool. I've never actually paid attention to this part myself, but I am going to have to listen for that this season as well. So if you've never paid attention, hey, that's something to look for as well. So we mentioned that the males with the better food items have the brighter plumage. While this isn't always the specific, like the main primary factor that female cardinals are looking for, this does lead to the males with brighter plumage having better resources to feed their young and kind of like higher success rates sometimes. So that is always something to consider. You know, when you see a brighter cardinal, you know they have access to high quality territory with a variety of food sources. These territories can range from anywhere from 2 to 10 acres. It really does depend on where the resources are and how close together they are as well too. These birds are also socially monogamous. So what that means is as we've seen them before, they usually do stay in pairs, but it is a different picture when we do actually look at the genetics of the eggs and the young themselves. Half the time, they're not related to both the mom and the dad of the pair. Usually there's one parent that they're not related to, but they are all cared for equally by the male and the female. So they're socially monogamous, but sometimes they're not always faithful. But it is always fun to see them together side by side as they visit the feeders in like the morning and the evening as well. So once they have picked their partner for the nesting season, they're going to pick the location that they like, and the female is going to build the nest and incubate the brood while the male will provide the food and protect the female and the egg. So they do work together through the season. When they're looking for the site and when they're building the nest, they're going to be going for shrubs and small trees. It can be anywhere from 3 to 20 feet high where they build the nest, but most of the time it's going to be kind of closer to the ground. They're not usually going to be going very far up. They have an open cup nest, they use stems and twigs, but oftentimes it will contain plastic and paper, and sometimes leaves and bark and grass. Not all nests are built the same way, so there is some way to do nest identification. The plastic isn't common for all types of nests, so sometimes that can help you narrow it down. Once again, these birds are a little bit larger. They're not going to be the type that use any nesting boxes, so you're usually going to find these again in shrubs and the like that as well. The nests are usually built anywhere from 3 to 9 days, and they don't reuse the nest once it's been used. They might revisit the site next year or anything like that, but they're not going to reuse that nest. So it's okay to come down once they're finished and they have fledged. So when they do have the eggs, they do have anywhere from 1 to 2 broods per year with anywhere from 2 to 5 eggs. You can see what the eggs look like in this picture on the bottom left. Usually they're a gray, green, white with pale gray, brown, or speckles. Usually the speckles can kind of change depending on the individual, so it's not always consistent. You might have a slightly different look depending on the individual. Now, the thing that's interesting about these birds is that usually the incubation and the nesting period are pretty similar, or it's got a smaller time frame difference, right? So for the incubation rate, so that's when the mom is laying on the eggs to incubate them, is anywhere from 11 to 13 days. So we're looking at about 2 weeks, right? But the nesting period is anywhere from 17 to 13 days. So you've got 1 week to 2 weeks. A possible reason for this might be because, again, these birds are usually nesting a little bit closer to the ground where it's easily accessible to predators that might be in the area. So depending on what's going on, at 7 days, they might be like, all right, time to go, we're done here. We got to go on the move, or they might be able to make it to that 14-day mark and leave a little bit later, that 13-day mark anyways. When the eggs first hatch, they are altricial, which means the young are naked, blind, and defenseless. So you'll kind of see a little bit of a picture here. They have no feathers. They are entirely dependent on the parent's assistant to to make it to their fledgling stage as well too. So overall, they'll be in the nest for about anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks at that point. When they finally leave the nest, we've got a picture of a fledgling and a juvenile here, and some of this will be important for just in general with this nesting season. But for the cardinals themselves, they're going to look very similar to the females. They haven't developed their full adult plumage yet, so even male juvenile cardinals won't really look like that bright red until they finally go through their first molt. One thing that does set the juveniles apart from the adults is the fact that their beak is a dark color compared to that bright orange that we saw in the first beginning. So once they get to their full adult plumage in that adult stage, that's when they'll get that orange beak in as well. But we can see that it starts out, actually go back 1 second. We can see that they have the light colored bill with those yellow lines right across the mouth to kind of give the cardinal idea to put food here, right? And then they're starting to slowly build out of that as well. So it's going to darken first and then turn bright. There is the slight distinction that the male juveniles are a little bit brighter in the wings and the tail compared to like your female juveniles, but it's still a very subtle difference to kind of pay attention to in that regard. So once they have fully developed, these birds, the younger ones can travel anywhere from 37 miles in their first year to find that territory and where they're going to set up for the next nesting season as well. So one thing I'll let you know too, when cardinals do fledge along with other birds, cardinals themselves don't usually have their life together when they're fledging. Sometimes they're still getting all of their feathers up on their face. Usually those are the last feathers to come in, as well as the tail. The juveniles have a very small crest in comparison to the adults who have a fuller crest there. But if you do ever see any baby birds that have kind of like jumped out of the nest, if they have very few feathers that have completely come out of the pin feather shape, if they are not fully developed like in this wing feather, they could still be a nestling. You might be able to just pop them back up in the nest and they should be fine. If you do see a fledgling, which means they have most of their feathers, they might be missing some here and there, but you know, they're working on it. If they are hopping around, if they're kind of bright, alert, and responsive and checking things out, and they're kind of actively calling and doing their thing, chances are the parents are nearby and kind of feeding them as they go. Because again, we can't stay in the nest forever, even if they look a little bit young for it, right? So the only reason that you'll need to interfere with any of the fledglings is if you notice that there is a predator nearby, whether it is something you might not think of, like your cat or dog, or if it's just an unsafe area with a lot of human traffic or things that, again, aren't safe for it, then you can kind of move it to a safer location, or if you know where the nest is, you can just pop it back in there for a second until things kind of calm down as well. So, okay, so then the question from Anna is how long do they usually stay around their parents? It does vary, but honestly, it's not going to be very long. Once they have like fully developed all their feathers, so like, let's see, so that nestling phase was about 13 days max. From there, it's just a matter of like they've probably fledged. Once they get more of their tail feathers in and they're able to fly fully on their own, usually they will start to kind of do their own thing and separate from their parents at that point. Whoop, sorry, I didn't mean to go back that way. But it can vary a little bit depending on species and everything as well too. Let's see. Okay, so when it comes to having cardinals in your backyard or like whatever yard you feed your birds in, because I know everybody's yard is different, but backyard behavior sounds like so much fun anyways. These birds are pretty easy to attract and feed as well. If you do have a lot of shrubs and lower coverage in your yard, that's going to be what they kind of like to focus on. If it's a little bit more open, it might take some more time to attract them, depending on if you've got woods a little bit farther away or anything like that as well. But like we mentioned, these birds are ground feeders, but they do just really like a lot of space to kind of feed forward and have that kind of full movement, right? So on a tube feeder, for example, that has a tray that's not a tray, goodness, a perch that's like this long, they're not going to have a really good time. Unless the perch is thicker, where it's easier for them to hold on, they're not going to be super interested in that. So feeders with the larger perching option are going to be what you're looking for if you want your cardinals up on a feeder. So hopper feeders are usually known as like house feeders. They have a lot of storage capacity. You can fill them pretty well. These are ones that are really good for cardinals and a lot of other birds as well, good for feeding both small and large birds. The tray feeders are usually just kind of these open tray feeders. The nice things about them is they basically bring all your ground feeding birds to more eye level. Along with that, a lot of other birds really enjoy the tray feeders because it gives them really good visibility of the area around them, any possible predators, things like that as well too. So tray feeders are also a really good open option. The only downside is sometimes they can get wet pretty easily, so it also doesn't store a lot of capacity of food, but it is a very nice option to bring those birds from the ground up. Lastly, if you do have a tube feeder, making sure it has like a tray option or something with a larger rim that allows the birds to easily access that, that's going to be what you're looking for. And if you don't really have these options, like you don't really either have those types of feeders or want to deal with the feeder, you could totally just scatter seed in an area that you know that the cardinals are kind of usually stopping by in. So in regards to things that they really enjoy, black oil sunflower is a very good generalized option. Good for pretty much any of our birds that eat any seed here as well too. Or safflower as well. Safflower is a 3-sided tough shell. It's a white seed that is tough to crack. So it is a favorite for your seed-eating birds. And it also is bitter to squirrels' taste. And if you have a lot of problems with starlings or grackles kind of eating all of your food at one time, the safflower is also a very good deterrent for them as well too, if you're trying to focus on certain birds. So that safflower is very good for the seed-eating birds like cardinals, house finches, chickadees, titmice, compared to like the black oil, which is a little bit more versatile as well too. But other birds like your starlings and grackles can eat that as well. So if you're looking for a blend, the Supreme blend is a really good option. It's just standard sunflower, safflower, sunflower chips. It's a very good generalized blend. Any of the blends with sunflower or safflower are good. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you guys get the idea, I imagine. So one of the things that's really fun about cardinals too is that they do visit the feeders around dawn and dusk. So I find if I'm ever watching the birds in the afternoon or close to the evening, the cardinals will start chipping around before they finally come in for the last meal of the day too. So keep an eye out on your feeders in the morning and in the evening, because that might be when you get your largest flock of cardinals to come in and say hello and have a very nice meal. So with that said, thank you guys so much for joining me today. We have a lot of people on, so I hope you guys learned a lot. For those that are that shop with us and are planning on coming in today or making a phone order, I have a coupon code for a $5 off 25 coupon. The code is Cardinal, so feel free to use that and get $5 off your purchase today. It's only available in store or phone, again, for today. Goodness, I was doing so well and now I'm like tripping over and repeating all my words. But again, you guys get the idea. We do have a second viewing of this presentation in store at 11 a.m. We do these presentations the third Saturday of every month. So if you ever are interested in tuning in on that, that is when we do them. The information is, of course, on our website as well as to what theme will be happening each month too. So with that said, these are the resources. All About Birds is a great website that provides a lot of good information for like your songbirds, like their songs, calls, general natural history information. And then the Macaulay Library has a lot of good resources for audio and looking at different types of photographs. So you can get really good details on the different types of songbirds that you really enjoy, or some you haven't even heard of. So definitely feel free to check out those websites as well too. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in as well. Really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy nesting season. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.